morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lyrical Lounge. Tonight, we have an incredible lineup of poetry, music, and conversation just for you. I'm your host, Katie Livermore, a fourth-year International Studies and Creative Writing student here at OSU. Above all, however, I'm a poet, and I fell in love with the art of words long ago. On this very special show, we will be exploring poetry, people, and stories with a side of jazz. And who doesn't love lyrics and music? One of the best parts of the lyrical world of poetry is sharing with others. The emotional connections we make with one another is unlike anything else. The poets we have for you tonight are not only talented, but brave. Performing poetry is a vulnerable act that takes courage and an open heart. We have an incredible lineup of artists ready to declaim their poetry and transport you to their own unique worlds. Wherever you are watching from tonight, we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this platform for poetry. Our first guest tonight is a talented poet whose words will transport us to a world of emotion and imagination. Please welcome Andre Bedoya Bunch.
Thank you. Well, my name is Andre Bedoya Bunch, and I'm a second-year student studying both environmental sciences and speech communications here at OSU. Normally, the pieces I write are for very informative topics, and I don't really get a chance to express my feelings much for people to see, so I hope this experience will really get a chance for those who know me to get to peer further within. I've written 4 poems that I'll share with you tonight, one describing a funny hypothetical, another spotlighting something paradoxical, the third creating a parallel between nature and the interpersonal, and the last one is something fairly experimental for me. The first one's kind of long-winded, and it's kind of a joke that I want to turn into prose. I call it Inconvenienced. These 2 skeletons are miners, right? One day they get called into work because they're understaffed and restless despite undead jaws and monstrous in-laws. So they're heading down the elevator shaft, pickaxes in their bare bony hands, appearing bright white against the dark contrast until finally the elevator lands. Trudging their way through caverns, coal awaits. They are strung up along the walls. However, at first strike, one pickaxe breaks, letting the metal ring and fall. Now all the skeletons really have is a bone to pick with their boss. The next one we got is diving into an antithetical relationship between our societal expectation within a family versus our superficial reality, and I call it vulnerability. They say when everyone's seated, we arrange our hearts on the table and make sure our laps are sheeted, with an example of a family that's stable with a relationship undefeated. I look over the table set for few, steaming dishes, searing pans to tempt me, all a routine meal debut. When I look back, your plate's empty. No sheet, no heart, no you. Without needing to pay, you tended to dine and dash. I never urged you to say, but I didn't think I had to ask. My third one creates a metaphorical connection between my favorite plant, kudzu, and its invasive tendency in nature. I call this one natural misanthropy. Kudzu hinders plants and condemns them from light, with no brain to strain them from productivity. Voracious, veinless veins wane weeds out of sight. Parasitic detriment is masked within foliage. Buds become embellished by the nooses of tendrils, leaves isolate trees and past and present patronage, disabling a much greater ability to undergo synthesis by synthesizing themselves with an external influence, fixated on an ideal improvement only to uncover its antithesis. The forest's potential energy remains gravely idle, leaching, rotting, sinking carbon directly down into the soil, a sudden halt in an ecosystem's many sunlight-driven cycles. A misunderstood underdog of overgrowth, climbing upon its surroundings, invasive and overgrown, unable of inhibition despite nature's homeostatic oath, reintroducing predators to tear down its ego, and inexorably contaminating crust so nothing regrows. And my last one for you is an experimental moment of reflective catharsis on my position in today's world. I call it sociology. Like magnets set adrift, polychromatic shards seek to mend their rift from glassworkers conditioned to disregard pieces they don't see fit. Glassware broken from a force, controlled by man but irreversible, spewing fragments from its source, its end result not reimbursable without actions taken in due course. To carelessly create or destroy those who can grab hold of gears, fostered by those who seek to employ new generational souvenirs as governmental decoys. A reflection of you bouncing back at me, living in reverse yet entwined in unity, bound by internal workings and strife, seeking release from inverted life. A gaze upon me feeling eager to dissect, a ricocheted gaze nullifying the effect, their apathy accepting the mundane while others yearn for a life unchained, employed by a world that seeks conformity, reinventing what others have shattered previously, a victim of rigidity yet feeling the urge to create new path with envious surge, taking on the mantle of watchful responsibility, designing new blueprints with wavering tenacity. It appears breaking free from the cycle of complacency evolves a life filled with boundless audacity to sacrifice integrity from simulacrum of fluidity. Thank you.
Enjoy a bunch, everyone. Thank you so much for an incredible performance. Poetry has a way of speaking to the soul, and your work does just that. And again, I'm your host, Katie, and I also write poetry, so I'll be reading a couple poems for you tonight. The first one is about grief, and you may notice that I switch words often like we do with our memories during times of grief. So this first one is called It Was Just a Rumor. If the fading room puzzle wasn't fuzzier on the edges from my tears in your loose hand hanging off the edge of your bed, undone like the thread of the sweater I threw out this last year, where would I be? Don't tell me it's double-sided grief like the diamond pattern hospital floors that switch back and forth between colors the shade of vomit. The neurosurgeon returns. She says, yes, it was a rumor. Surgery may not remove it all. She's sorry. My eyes go blurry. My body begins to seize like Sunday afternoon when the ambulance arrived. And I say, don't even pick me up off the antiseptic stained floor. I don't want part in this life without you anymore. But in the real version, the neurosurgeon comes, and she says it's not what we thought. An affection crawled into his brain and hooked like hatred in those squiggles, while scribbles to my writing major mind. Please make a chart with the human body. Heart hits hard through 7 stories, slices my stomach until it scrunches into my lungs, lighter, and runs rampant in my rib cage. I can still hardly breathe. But how would you even draw that? You're not a doctor yet, you told me as I kissed your hand in the ICU. Sublimation like the freezer where we used to store our Ben & Jerry's. Remember? We get them from the store near where we drove up to the coffee shop, and they'd know my order, vanilla steamed milk, before preschool every morning. I'd smile and you'd pass it to my marshmallow grabby hands, and sip, chattering about cats and burning my lips. Did you know then that my lips would someday burn from the coffee which tasted quite good against the bitter hospital breaking point, busting my taste buds? Remember when we stopped in the cafeteria every day in the hospital to pick plastic pouches of peach rings? Here I wander the halls without any direction, considering the carpets are constantly crawling towards doors and knocking to last breaths. I never thought that when we were in the car home from college and I taught you about Answer, how I learned there are bad cells not just for prisoners, but in our bodies too, that you went quiet because you already knew. And this next one is a bit lighter. It's about my phobia of buoys, which is a real thing. My friends always thought it was really weird, so this is dedicated to them. This is called submechanophobia, or the fear of submerged artificial objects. Tiny legs dangling, swallowed whole by green lake, pushing pounds of skies and cities above a secret seafloor. In the distance, swaying low below my neck, is a long algal chain chewed away by many ages. A single faceless sphere hooked to the surface, tensed against a line of salt and peppered straps, a line I will not cross, I tell my mocking friends. Go swim and touch it. They dare me to poke that half moon of slime, stretching its chain to the indiscernible depths. The buoy just bobs there and never speaks, never swims, never sighs day and night. I shiver. You're strange, they scream, so I swim and prod the buoy. It bobs and ripples through my veins, years of sheer shock still feeding its fears. What's beneath the stained volleyball veiled in muddied greens, they'll never know. But if I was alone between drowning and surviving by latching my life to a buoy, I'd rather live in silence with swimming salamanders than attach my life to that chain. Wrapping around my ankles and submerging me, a natural being, into the hidden world of angry artificial objects. And with that, we are going to take a short break and stay with us because coming up, we have an exciting conversation with our special guests and later a musical performance you won't want to miss. Jazz, please take it away.
Hi, my name is Kay Solozzi. I'm a senior here at Oregon State University, and this is my story. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me on another journey through the multi-lens. I'm your host, Kay Solozzi. Well, when I first came to Orange Media Network, I came with a passionate idea that I had in podcasting, and that was to talk about science, religion, culture, things that were in the headlines, dive deep in a variety podcast show. The opportunities here at Orange Media Network are great. They have state-of-the-art resources. These professional level cameras and microphones and equipment has elevated my podcast to a professional radio quality podcast. And these resources are accessible to anyone who's interested in media. I was able to create an amazing portfolio, and that portfolio helped me land a marketing job in the industry. My name is Kay Solozzi. Come join Orange Media Network so you can tell your story.
I joined Orange Media Network as a freshman. I think it was my second week of being a freshman here, and I was looking for an opportunity to get involved in something on campus. And I had done a little bit of high school journalism, not a lot, but I came up here to the 4th floor. I saw the TV studios, I saw the radio booth, I saw all the computers, and I thought, this is super cool. This is something I want to get involved in. And I joined the barometer team as a freshman. I learned so many things that I would have never learned in a classroom. Not only did I learn how to do journalism, how to design a newspaper, how to produce a TV show, I learned skills on top of that that are definitely going to help me in whatever I go do with my life. These past 4 years, OMN has meant to me to be a place where I can come and be myself, where I can come and challenge myself, push myself, learn and grow. It's a place where you come up here and you think you know who you are, you think you know the type of leader that you are, the type of person that you are, but you look back as a graduating senior 4 years later and think, wow, I am not the same person as I was when I stepped on this floor the very first time as a freshman. My name is Lauren Sless. I am the producer of Spotlight at KBVR TV at Orange Media Network.
Encounter a single mean person. As much as you insist that you're mean, Jada.
I don't know if I've...
For Black History Month here at Oregon State.
So keep the ball for there's not a baseball. Yeah. Oh, it's all eliminated. Oh, right in the gut. That was.
Just to press your topping down a little bit, make sure they fit, firmly on top of the sushi and they won't come out.
Runs around to the bat suit, punching Joker in the face and saving God. All right, thanks.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by some truly inspiring guests. Let's give a warm welcome to Hannah Arison and Sam Olson. Hannah is a recent graduate of the MFA program in poetry, and Sam is currently in his second year. So first, let's start with talking about what initially drew you to poetry.
Yeah, for me, I've always been interested in reading poetry, but I didn't start writing until I was in high school and undergrad, and I just kind of fell in with the right crowd who also wrote and had some really inspiring professors, and so that's kind of where it started for me.
Nice.
likewise had some inspiring professors. Grandfather was a poet. His mom was too. And they just got me started early. Yeah.
Very cool. Generational.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. And how would you describe your poetic style and the primary themes within your work?
It's a great question. Style is a hard one because it changes poem to poem. You know, it depends on who I'm writing to or the form I'm using. But generally, the through line for me is the sonic quality of poetry, the assonance or consonance, the repetition. And I like to often write about rivers and people.
Very cool.
For myself, style-wise, again, varies for me as well, but I tend to lean into experimental forms, things that kind of dance around on the page. And then content-wise, I do write a lot about love and grief, and specifically how that interacts with the natural world and like trees. So river, trees, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Lots of connections. Yeah. And do you feel that the MFA program here at OSU has adequate support and resources?
Oh, well, yes, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful program, really beautiful community. The professors are incredible as well, and really supportive, and there's just a lot of opportunities, like everywhere really, but yeah, it's the people that really make it, so.
Yeah, ditto.
Absolutely. And what does being a student of poetry mean to you?
That's another great question. I think for me that's meant reading as much as I can, traveling and moving through the world with a notebook, as well as like an antenna up, or like my radar is scanning for a possible poem anywhere.
Yeah, I think for me, similar in that sense too, but also I think that every time you're writing or interacting with any kind of art form, you're immediately like learning from like poetry as a being itself, and so you're always a student as soon as you start. So yeah, and you just keep going from there.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have your own poetry published, and if so, where can we access it?
So for myself, not currently, but I do have submissions out, so hopefully soon, but Sam has some really cool things
It's
out.
a journey though, it's tough. Publishing is, yeah, it's a journey. Yeah, I have a poem that just came out a few days ago in Radar Poetry, and some things on the way, maybe in March, through Flyway, Journal of Writing and Environment.
Congrats, that's awesome.
Thanks.
And do you have a process that gets you into the writing headspace?
I think for me, I kind of rely on having more of a regimented structure. I like to get up early and have at least half an hour to an hour of time to journal by hand. So I kind of rely on just knowing that I'll have that built in. Coffee helps. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't always rely on when inspiration strikes. Regiment's obviously part of it too, but when it does strike, I tend to really lean into music and kind of listen to songs that match the feeling or the emotion I'm going after, and let that invoke even more in the writing process. So that's been a pretty standard thing for me. I never really write in silence. So.
Right. Awesome. And what is a piece of advice that you'd give to poets who are just starting out now?
Do you want to, I can take this one?
Yeah, you go for it.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to relay some advice that was given to me by the poet E.J. Koh, which I highly recommend her work. But she told me that when you feel like you've gotten to the heart of the subject that you're writing about, and you're like, I can't possibly go any further than this, like I am at my core, you get to that point and then you reach beyond that, like deeper beyond that. So just, you know, lean into the emotion and follow it and have faith in what you're writing about. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
I share this with my students, and I have to remind myself this a lot too, that poetry is just an art of putting one word after another word. And also read as much as you can. Find an author you love and find out who that author was reading, and so on.
Totally. And speaking of students, I'm assuming you've taught classes at OSU. What is something that you've learned from teaching and from your students as well?
I think being curious and being open to play. I am not really a big meter guy, but my students showed curiosity in it, and so we learned it together, iambic and trochee and spondy. So having some sense of community around learning has been a huge boon.
Yeah, definitely community. I think when I first started teaching, I was just so appreciative of the fact that I was entering a space with like younger folks too who are also interested in art, and it really spoke to like the intergenerational quality of it and how like community really is such a big part of writing or really any art form. So I think I learned from them that like, yeah, there's just so much beauty in the interaction itself. So.
Wonderful. Well, it was so nice to talk to both of you. Don't go anywhere just yet. Coming up, we have a special musical performance to close out our night on a high note. Stay tuned.
The Basic Needs Center is a resource center for students where we have a vision to inspire and nurture a thriving community. My role is to facilitate conversations where we have peer-to-peer conversations and work on like building strategies for the student. We have tons of programs such as our food pantry, our textbook lending program. Every Thursday we have a breakfast club where students are welcome to like make themselves a bagel or cook themselves some eggs. We do host cooking classes in collaboration with our dietetic interns, or we host them on a seasonal event. As long as you're an active student, you're welcome to utilize our resources and give access to our Corvallis community for our food pantries on Wednesdays. We also give volunteer opportunities where students can like get to know us, get to understand like how we function here at the Basic Needs Center. The community is like outstanding. We all come from like different experiences, and we like share our resources just to like build a strong relationship. Community is a basic need. Many of us aren't really familiar that how beneficial community plays an influence in our lives. Come by to the Basic Needs Center. We are a welcoming space. OSU funds us to support you. We also have an Instagram and a Twitter. It's at BNC@OSU.
One thing I really love about my job is I get to work with a lot of different people and have a lot of fun with them.
Oh man, the bullpen, it's honestly my second home. It's always like something's going on here, it's always music playing, but at the same time it's like that one big family feel here. So yeah, that's what the bullpen means to me.
It's a place where we like to foster a lot of our community, where you get to know people really well, a place to hang out.
What I like about OMN in general is just like, it's just like the community aspect.
It's just such a fun place to work. I always like to say it's the best job on campus.
It's like the one place like where like you could be like radio, work for a magazine publication, you can do everything and like it's kind of accepted and normalized, so yeah.
It's just so much fun. I can't stress that enough.
Why not work here? It's a really cool place to be.
Welcome back. To close out the night, we have an electrifying performance from our live jazz band. Let's give it up for them.
Lock your dreams up tight. Lock your dreams up tight. It could happen to you. Don't chase stars or you might stumble. Someone drops a sigh and down you tumble. Keep your eyes on spring. Run when church bells ring. It could happen to you. All I did was wonder how your arms would be, and it happened to me. Hide your heart from sight. Lock your dreams up tight. It could happen to you. Don't chase stars or you might stumble. Someone drops a sigh and down you tumble. Keep an eye on spring. Run when church bells ring. It could happen to you. All I did was wonder how your arms would be, and it happened. Yes, it happened, and it happened to me.
And that's our show for tonight. A huge thank you to our special guests, our incredible poet, and this amazing band for sharing their talent with us. If you'd like to be on our spring term episode of the Lyrical Lounge, be sure to follow KBVR TV on Instagram for show updates and keep your eyes peeled for submission posters around campus. Tune in next time for more poetry, music, and thought-provoking conversations. I'm Katie, your host, and we'll see you again soon.